Hello and welcome to the ISD 200 School Board Candidate Forum. I'm Alexis Huss and I will be the moderator this evening. Tonight we will hear from the two candidates running for one open seat on the ISD 200 School Board. This event is being recorded live and airing on the Hastings Community TV YouTube page, where it will be available afterwards. You can also watch it on cable channels 14 SD and 799 HD. Let's hear the rules. All of the questions were submitted from community members and were reviewed by a committee, categorized and narrowed down to 5. These questions were not provided to candidates prior, so candidates, if you need a question repeated, please feel free to ask. Please remember, this is a forum, not a debate. No interruptions are allowed. Each candidate will be given 1 minute for introductions, 1 minute to answer questions, and 1 minute for a closing statement. We will alternate who answers the question first. Our timekeeper will indicate when there is 30 seconds left with a yellow sign and when there is 5 seconds left with a red sign. As the moderator, I am allowed to cut candidates off if they go over their time. Let's begin with opening statements. Please be sure to tell viewers what motivated you to run for school board. Candidates, you will each have 1 minute. Ms. Michael Mulder, we will start with your opening statement and what motivated you most to run for ISD 200 School Board.
Thank you. There's a variety of different reasons why I chose to run for school board. One of them would be, I believe in the concept of duty. This community has given so much to me, and I believe it's my duty to give back to the community. 2, I've always believed in mentorship, and I really want to encourage the generation that comes my age and younger to step up and be a part of the community and contribute where they feel that they have a passion. And then 3, I think that I'm just kind of made for the school board. I've always had a passion about education. My senior thesis was all about education. I helped build a critical thinking institute from the ground up. In my practice, I'm an attorney. I love funneling different perspectives and helping people come to common understanding and common values. And I'm really eager to always engage people with hard questions. Lastly, I just have always felt like a hype person for Hastings. So all about Hastings.
Thank you, Ms. Michael Mulder. Ms. Rendon, please give us your opening statement and what motivated you most to run for ISD 200 School Board.
Bonjour. Give me one Gijikikwe. My name is Simone. I'm Ojibwe and Lakota, and that's important for me to be able to say everywhere that I go. I am motivated to run for the school board because I think we need more diversity everywhere that we look. And when I moved to Hastings, I had a teenage daughter who graduated from the alternative school. And there were some hardships. And so I always say, if you're going to make change, if you're going to do anything, you actually have to step up and do it. And for the first time in my life, I'm like, I actually have to practice what I preach. And so I did. I put my name, and I am learning a lot of things. And I'm just fascinated with it, and I love that I'm learning all of these things. So that's what I want to bring to the school board.
Thank you, candidates, for your opening statements. We will now move on to our first question. Again, you will have 1 minute to answer this question. We will now go in reverse order. Ms. Rendon, you will answer first. The first question is, what do you see as the board's roles and responsibilities in the school district?
I see the roles and the responsibilities as how do we look at the whole school system. It's the place that everything gets funneled through when we're talking about our children and our teachers, and the health of our community. That all starts with our children. And if our school board is a strong school board around all of our children and the teachers and everybody in that living system, the better the community can be. The school board's roles and responsibilities are also to talk about policies. What are the policies that we have in our district? What are the policies that we have around our students, our teachers, our staff? It's a huge role because it's all those little things that we need to have our ears and eyes on and talk about when we're all together.
Thank you, Ms. Rendon. Ms. Michael Mulder, what do you see as the board's roles and responsibilities in the school district?
I see the school board's role to be those people and that colony that really implants vision for our district, especially with our superintendent, with our schools. I really think that it's our role to continuously refresh and remind and recognize the value of the strategic plan and make sure that everybody is really living and acting according to our values. Obviously, to support the superintendent, it's a terribly hard job, and I don't think that Christine needs a lot of our help, but that's what the board's there for, to support her. And then ultimately, I'd say to help find creative solutions to the problems that our teachers and our classes are facing today. I think that we're going to have to be able to think outside of the box with some of the current limits that we have within the within the classroom, and within our staff and everything. But I think we have a great team, and I think we can do it.
Thank you, Ms. Michael Mulder. You will answer this next question first. Question 2 is, a survey was recently sent out to district families to better understand what is going well and where improvements are needed. Participants were asked to rate their top priorities. As you are talking to constituents, what are you hearing as top priorities from families for our schools?
Sure. There's a lot of things that I think the constituents have been bringing in front of me, but the two things that I hear the most is educational excellence and making sure that we have good student behavior and discipline. This was consistent with the survey last year too, and pretty much all groups said that this was something that they valued, that they wanted more of. Kids wanted to know that kids wanted more ways that they could relate to school. They wanted to be able to be excited about school and be engaged in what their classrooms are offering. Same thing, students and across the board complained about the fact that there were kids in their classroom that weren't following the rules, and they were saying that discipline wasn't equally distributed. And frankly, it's a really hard task because it's to be in a position of a teacher and continuously enforcing rules is really hard. So I think that we need to build up some gumption, get some community spirit, and try to hold each other accountable, families, students, and teachers, and staff.
Thank you, Ms. Michael Mulder. Ms. Rendon, again, the question is, a survey was recently sent out to district families to better understand what is going well and where improvements are needed. Participants were asked to rate their top priorities. As you are talking to constituents, what are you hearing as top priorities from families for our schools?
A lot of the same things that Elaine had mentioned, but also wanting to bridge that gap around the diversity. And I know that Hastings School District doesn't have a large diversity pool. I think when I was looking, it's at 6%, 94% white, 6% other. And so how to actually not make it so other, how to actually be more inclusive within the whole school district, not just the high school, not just the middle school, but all the way from elementary school. How do we get our children and our families around us, around community, and actually engage as community and as human beings one-to-one? I think a lot of the things with the discipline will start to fade when we actually start coming together and talking as families.
Thank you, Ms. Rendon. We'll now move to question 3. For the third question, Ms. Rendon will start. The question is, school districts across the country are facing numerous challenges: labor shortages, shrinking budgets, political pressure, and more. How would you, as a potential school board member, work to address these issues?
I would start by looking at the places that we're not looking. As an Indigenous person, one of the things when we moved to Hastings, people didn't know in the high school the appropriate paperwork for us to fill out for the Indian education. And there's a lot of funding in the diverse group of people that we're missing because the paperwork isn't filled out correctly or we don't have the right paperwork. So that's a lot for shrinking budgets. We actually got to look for the monies that we are not looking for. Labor shortages, how do we retain the really good teachers that we have? Sorry, my brain is just, I'm terrified.
You're doing good.
Yeah, that's all I have in my brain right now, that question.
Thank you, Ms. Rendon. Ms. Michael Mulder, again, the question is, school districts across the country are facing numerous challenges: labor shortages, shrinking budgets, political pressures, and more. How would you, as a potential school board member, work to address these issues?
You know, I'm just going to bring up a conversation that Simone and I had before we started this conversation, and that's the value of really being charitable with one another, being hospitable to one another, being hospitable to each other's situations on a personal level, and then on a school level, on a district level, on a state level, on a country level, on a world level. We have tons of pressure. And honestly, serving the public is a really hard task because we live in a diverse world with a lot of different perspectives. So being able to encompass and really own and steward those perspectives is a really hard thing, especially when you're a sleep-deprived mom. So yeah, I think that number one, being charitable with each other is going to be huge. Two, when it comes to budget, I mean, we do whatever we can to make sure we make our voice known to the state legislator to free up the money that we can potentially get to us and do our best with it. Ultimately, selling our town. We have an amazing community. We have an amazing town. We have so much to offer. We have a lot of spirit. So I think we have to sell what we have.
Thank you, Ms. Michael Mulder. We'll now move on to question 4. For the fourth question, Ms. Michael Mulder will start. The question is, a role as a board member is to support the superintendent. How will you provide the necessary governance to support the superintendent of ISD 200 as a board member?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of systems already in place to support the superintendent. I think one thing that I've realized even in my time as a board member since May is that there's some things that I don't know that I need to know. So being able to ask good questions to the superintendent to make sure that we're really supporting her the way that she needs to be supported. I think constantly reminding her of the strategic plan and the visions and the goals and where we want to go to really keep the gumption going within her is a huge thing. I think hiring the right superintendent was the best thing that we could have done for Hastings. And I think our superintendent is so good at communicating. So when she has something that she needs help with, she's so good at communicating. She asks us, we ask her. And making sure that we're constantly encouraging her and holding her accountable to really hear the voices of the community and the staff and the teachers. I think that's a way that we can best support the superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Michael Mulder. Ms. Rendon, again, the question is as follows. A role as a board member is to support the superintendent. How will you provide the necessary governance to support the superintendent of ISD 200 as a board member?
Thank you. That one for me is about communication. How do we actually have that open communication between what the superintendent, what their vision is, what are the ways that we can support making that vision happen, and or if it's not something that the board sees as something that we need in Hastings, how do we actually communicate that back to the superintendent? You have to have that rapport because neither one is working as an individual entity. You actually have to do it in community with communication with each other. And the more that can happen visibly for everyone to see, it's like a ripple effect. The more you're able to do that in your communities, you can do that in the communities, the kids in the school actually be like, oh, these adults are actually talking to each other and thinking about us in the best way possible. Why don't we do that in our groups and actually talk to each other? So it's that thing of how do you model what you want seen.
Thank you, Ms. Rendon. For the fifth and final question before closing statements, Ms. Rendon will start. The question is, how will you conduct yourself to bring unity and common purpose to the needs of the school district's students?
Can you Just say it one more time for
Sure.
me, please.
The question is, how will you conduct yourself to bring unity and common purpose to the needs of the school district's students?
Sorry, my brain is like, in a good way is how I would conduct myself. By listening, by actually having flexible thinking, by not showing up with a set picture in my brain of how this district is supposed to be around its students. Every student little population in our school is going to change as they grow older. And so you have to have that flexibility in order to meet them where they're at, in order for them to know where you're at, to even know what those roles are in terms of being able to be in the schools district. So conducting myself in a way of like coming and listening to what is being proposed to me and not judging that, having people worded in a way so that it's an open and good conversation back and forth.
Thank you, Ms. Rendon. Ms. Michael Mulder, again, the question is, how will you conduct yourself to bring unity and common purpose to the needs of the school district students?
Listen, echoing Simone, I think this starts with, the way that we want our students to exist in this world starts with us. I think the way that we conduct ourselves in the world is pivotal. Every word we speak, every encounter we have, we're teaching our kids hate, we're teaching our kids love. So I agree with you. Carry yourself well. To say that, or to follow, I think that how I see education is that it's a space for kids to really safely discover who they are, discover their nature, discover themselves as an individual in a community. And I think the best thing that I could do is lead with humility and honesty and transparency, acknowledging that I'm growing. I'm constantly growing. I'm constantly changing my mind on things. There's things that are very confusing in the world. It's just, the world can be a really hard place, and there's a lot of voices to sift through. And I think being able to show the students that we can engage in these conversations and these questions and not do it with shame is pivotal.
Thank you, Ms. Michael Mulder. That concludes the question portion of this forum. We will now move on to closing statements. Since Ms. Michael Mulder started the opening statements, Ms. Rendon will start the closing statements. You will each have 1 minute for your closing statement. Ms. Rendon, please begin when you are ready.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for everybody who is watching and listening. One of the things that I think is also important that I wanted to make sure to address is that, like, the political stuff that gets so big up here, we also have to look at what is right here in front of us and how do we actually look at our Hastings school district and concentrate on that. Now, all of this other things do matter, but sometimes we get too big. And so how do we actually keep that communication small here, and what are the changes that we can actually make for this small group to then go out into the world and show that vision of what those students have grown. And I look forward to meeting more people in Hastings. I've only been here 7 years. And so it's wonderful. I really enjoy this.
Thank you, Ms. Rendon. Ms. Michael Mulder, your closing statement when you are ready.
Yeah, I think that my closing statement would be that my biggest passion above and beyond anything is to encourage kids to fall in love with learning. I want them to leave our school system and love their experience, yes, in District 200, but to get in a rhythm of their life where they're asking questions, where they're comfortable being curious, where they're comfortable being gray, where they know how to engage people in great conversation with empathy and compassion and intrigue and excitement. I think that's going to take a lot of pursuit and micro changes within the classroom. It's why I've made educational pursuits one of the pursuits of my life, because I want my kids to be able to love learning and be okay with the fact that they're growing, that they're developing, that they have room to grow, because they're always going to have room to grow. The moment that we stop growing, we stop living. So I think that's the vision that I really want to birth into our district, and I want to do it with charity, and I want to do it with love. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Michael Mulder. This concludes tonight's forum. We want to thank both candidates for participating tonight. This forum for ISD 200 School Board was brought to you by Hastings Community TV. The recorded version of this forum will be on the Hastings Community TV YouTube channel. Please be sure to vote on November 4th. I'm Alexis Huss. Have a great night.